Welcome to Women in Leadership Talk, where you'll hear from successful women who are empowering other women with their stories of adversity, resiliency, and success. And here is your host, Vicki Bradley, founder and CEO of Women in Leadership Empowered.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Thank you for joining us today. We're super excited. We have a guest today that I'm just going to tell you right now, I hear this so much from different clients, from women I meet, men I meet, young people I meet, how sleep deprived we are. And so today we have Dr. Jen Parsons joining us, and we're going to be talking about how to get better sleep. Dr. Jen, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Vicki. This topic is near and dear to my heart, for sure.
I can tell. I know. I'm so excited for it. And before we jump into all of the conversation, all the good things we're going to cover off today, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're subscribing to the WIL Talk podcast so that you get, first and foremost, you get that right into your inbox. So don't forget to do that today. Hit subscribe. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Parsons so you understand why I've invited her to the show. She is a licensed naturopathic doctor, women's health expert, and advocate, as well as a sought-after subjects related to anxiety, sleep, women's health, to prioritize the healthcare of women. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. She is also a leader in women's health and understands the unique challenges that women face, particularly as it comes to their personalized care. And she wants to ensure that every woman feels heard and supported on their journey to wellness. I apologize in advance to our audience. I do have a cold, so my voice is a little squeaky today, so I apologize for that. But I will tell you, I know Dr. Parsons personally. She is amazing and has helped me in so many ways. And so I just want to give her those kudos. Like, she's been just fantastic. So I'm thrilled to have her on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me, Vicki. This is truly an honor. I was telling you earlier that my assistant is a big fan, and she got me into your podcast, and I've been listening ever since. So I'm
thank you, and thank her.
Yeah, it's really buzzed to be here. Thank you.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. And, you know, this topic, we were talking about this just before we went live, but this topic is a hot topic. I mean, so many people are sleep deprived, including myself. You know, you hit certain stages of life and it hits you, but I'm noticing it's happening more often and to more people, men, women, young people. It's like there's no discrimination in, deprivation of sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it in my practice daily. I see about 8 or 9 people a day. I want to say 75% of them are coming in with sleep deprivation. They're not always coming in for that specifically, but that is happening in the background and impacting their health in every way you can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you feel it, right? Like when you don't get sleep, you really feel it. But let's start off with really about, what inspired you to focus on this practice for women's health and, their sleep health, I should say, and this fresh start. Like, talk to us about what that is and what led you down this path.
Yeah. So fresh start is, I guess it started about 25 years ago from my own, I want to say a darker chapter. We've all had those difficult times in our life. About 25 years ago, I was going through a divorce. I was going to say a difficult divorce, but I don't know of any other kind of divorce.
Great point.
Yeah. So I really, at the time, I was feeling isolated. Self-isolation for sure. I had lots of friends and family that would have been willing to help, but I guess there was a shame piece, and I was going through lots of thoughts around not wanting to be a burden on others, and how could this happen, and why did I do this? And upon reflection, there was probably a period of depression. Until finally I started to get some physical symptoms. Extreme fatigue, hot flashes in my toes, a lot of other really unusual symptoms, hair loss. So I went to the doctor, and I found out that I was actually diagnosed with cancer. And I always say this was the most beautiful gift in the ugliest package. because it forced me to open up to friends, to open up to family, to seek help, to go to a professional, and to get the care that I needed, both mentally, physically, and in every way, spiritually. And because of that, I decided that it was my life's mission to make sure that women never have to go through difficult periods and difficult transitions without support. And so every time a woman comes in, I just give them lots of space. We talk about what's really happening in their life. And that also gives us the opportunity to dive deep into, okay, so all these things are happening. How is that impacting your blood work? How is that impacting your health, your heart, your mind, your sleep? And so that's sort of the first prong of how I started Fresh Start. And this isn't just transitions like divorce or grief. It can also be good transitions, new jobs, moving. Any kind of transition is usually when we let go of our health.
Yeah.
And so it's really I feel like it's my purpose to be there for people during these transitions.
Amazing.
So that is the Fresh Start piece of things. And I've seen thousands of women. I've been lucky enough to support thousands of women at this point. And I would say most of the time during these transitions and during big changes, the first thing to go is sleep. And in my mind, that is the first pillar of health. When sleep goes, good eating goes, drinking water goes, mental health goes, everything starts to go away when there's no sleep. So that became my first and primary question with most patients. How's your
Yeah.
sleep?
Wow. Well, it's a powerful one, no question, because it is critical. And we often just dismiss it, right? We don't think about, and then it accumulates over time. And you can't make it up, right? Like once it's gone, like as I get older, I realize that more and more. And you've also said that to me. But I did when I was younger. It was like, oh yeah, I'll make it up. No worries. This weekend I'll sleep in more, and you never really do get it back. And so what is that actually doing to us when it accumulates over time?
Yeah, so it's a loaded question. Kind of everything. It does everything.
Yeah.
I always say, there's different levels of sleep. And so a lot of people will sleep, but it's not good quality sleep. And often when we're stressed or going through hormonal shifts, it's not that we're not getting enough sleep, we're just not getting the good quality stuff. Primarily, what happens in the first half of sleep is your brain slightly shrinks, believe it or not, increases the little crevices in the brain, and you are washed with something called lymphatic system. And the reason I'm bringing that is actually a metabolic washing of the brain of any kind of issues that are going to cause things like dementia, brain fog, any other cognitive decline. That's the primary thing that starts to go and that we can't really make up for.
Hmm.
Secondly, when we're not getting good quality sleep, we're not able to categorize things into this is important and this can wait. And I can see in so many patients how that impacts them in work, at home, in their own prioritizing of their own healthcare. So that starts to go. And then there's physical issues like higher blood pressure, higher blood sugar, higher anxiety, greater increase of cancer risk, certainly a lower immune system, so greater frequency of colds and flus.
Yep. Got it. Got it.
Love it. Yeah, yeah, I
Well,
know.
yeah, but even when you were just saying that, where my head went, I was thinking about a lot of our young people, right? Like I definitely see the impact on anxiety, and when they're not getting that regulated sleep for them, it's showing up one way. Where I see it with clients that I work with and people that I'm talking to, myself included, it is the brain fog, right? It's not being, because you don't feel quite as sharp as you used to feel. And so it's like, okay, what's going on with me? I know I'm getting older, but, I feel like I'm still, 30 years old. But then I have those moments when that sleep deprivation takes in, and it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm not as fast as I used to be. And that we don't like that feeling.
No, no. And it's not only we don't like it, on top of that, it's also, you know, women are usually the caregivers. If you're a mother, you have to stay on top of that. If you're in a role, a leadership role, which most women are in one capacity or another, that
Absolutely.
starts to, go down the toilet when you're trying to juggle all of these things. If you don't have good quality sleep, then you're really not able to show up the way that you want to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
From a science perspective, it's interesting because one of the things that lack of sleep does is it prevents communication between the amygdala, or the emotional part of our brain, to the frontal cortex, which is really the rational thought part of the brain.
Creative.
Creative. Yeah. How you take a moment. And I was laughing this morning because I'm in Toronto, and right now it's the World Series here in Toronto, and I'm a fair weather Blue Jays fan, Toronto Blue Jays for our baseball team. And last night, I'm like, I'm going to just stay up and watch a bit of the game. And it turned out that this is the longest game, or tied for the longest game in series history. And so I was up till, I'm going to say it, 3 a.m. last night, which is totally unlike me. And I went to bed and I'm like, I'm going to sleep in. And my husband came in at 7 o'clock this morning. He said, Jen, do you need some help with your mic for your podcast? Come down, I'm going to help you. And my response, I barked at him, I'm sleeping. Totally not like me. This is out of nowhere, but it's because there was no connection. My emotion was like, don't bother me. And my husband just slowly crept
Backed away.
he's like, aren't you doing a podcast about sleep?
Yes, I'm trying to get more of it. Go away. Well, I have to say, go Jays go, because I was right there with you. I was watching. That might be a little bit of why my voice is not fully here, because I'm yelling at the TV.
Worth it, though. Worth it.
It was worth it. Yeah, I didn't make it all the way to the end. I think I popped out around the 16th inning, and I was just like, I can't go any longer. But
Yeah.
it literally, for those of you who didn't watch the World Series, it was like having 2 games in one night, like back to backs. Like, it was crazy. But yeah, we lost, unfortunately. I was very sad by that. Yes. Tonight's a new night, though. So we'll see what happens.
It's true. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah.
That's great. But I love how you tied that in with, that can affect mood. Definitely can. I do a lot of work in conscious leadership, and, that focus is about not reacting and being, taking that pause, responding consciously to whatever the situation is. And when we are deprived of sleep, I think oftentimes that reacting, or that reaction mechanism, it definitely kicks in. So that was a great lead into that. So I think the other part I really want us to dive into today is the hormone connection, right? Like, there's so many women, and I noticed it for myself when, like, it's one thing when you have kids and your hormones are crazy, right? And like, your body just physiologically changes because all of a sudden you're up at different hours feeding or whatever. But when you have that when you go into perimenopause or full on menopause, what is actually happening that causes these disruptions and these middle of the night wake up and you can't go back to bed kind of cycle we get into?
Yeah. So there's really 3 things happening that's impacting sleep. There's progesterone that starts to drop, there's estrogen that starts to fluctuate, and there's a shift in cortisol. So progesterone is one of our hormones that is responsible for making us feel calm and focused. It increases GABA in the brain, which is our neurotransmitter that makes us feel like, okay, I feel pretty good now. It's high at night, and that allows us to go into nice, deep sleep. So when our progesterone starts to drop, which is right at the beginning of perimenopause, that's the first hormone to sort of drop quite quickly, we feel a little more anxious all the time. And so at night, when we're not making enough progesterone, our mind is very active. It doesn't really want to go into a deeper sleep, which we need. And so we start to wake up in the middle of the night. The second thing that happens is this fluctuation in estrogen. And what estrogen does is it helps promote serotonin, which is our joy and happy hormone. And it also impacts melatonin. So when our estrogen is high, when it's doing this, our melatonin is lower. Makes it much more difficult to fall asleep, much more difficult to stay asleep. And with this fluctuation, it also impacts our temperature regulation. So estrogen, or estradiol, is responsible, one of the many things it's responsible for is vasodilation, which is our arteries kind of get wider in response to our temperature, and that keeps us cool throughout the night. And when we don't have the same amount of estrogen, our vasodilator is not happening, and we're hot and sweaty and uncomfortable and waking up right when we're supposed to be coolest, which is about 2 to 4 a.m. We're supposed to be nice and cool. Our GABA is supposed to be high. We're supposed to be in a nice, dark, deep sleep. Now we're hot. We're uncomfortable. When progesterone is low, we're also getting joint pain. So all of this is kind of coming together and creating middle of the night waking.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing is cortisol. So cortisol is our hormone. We call it kind of our stress hormone. And that is our fight or flight hormone. It's supposed to be highest at around 8 a.m. So we're alert, ready to go, ready to fight the bear. And then it gradually gets lower and lower as the day goes on. And then it's supposed to stay nice and low all night. So you can imagine if we have this low progesterone and our GABA isn't there to keep us calm, and low serotonin, and now we're hot, and all of the demands of the day are sort of being processed in our brain, but we're not quite asleep. Now our cortisol is spiking.
Mm-hmm.
And so our cortisol, rather than a high 8 a.m. cortisol level, we're getting a high 3 a.m. cortisol level.
You just described me perfectly. That's exactly what happens. I wake up at 3 a.m. I'm burning up. I'm throwing covers off.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I have to make a run to the ladies' room, right? Because it's like, okay. And then the brain kicks in, to your point, and it's like, oh my gosh, did I do everything I was supposed to do for the day? And then it just starts that cycle. So, yeah, like you just described beautifully. That's exactly. And I hear it from so many other women that, same thing. It's that 3 a.m. wake up. And so, we also, I think we get into these almost like a habit, right? Like if it happens multiple nights in a row, it makes it very difficult to break that cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how do we do that? How do we break that cycle and actually get into some good deep sleep?
Yeah, so, everyone's a little bit different. So the low hanging fruit is making sure there's good sleep hygiene. The room is as cool as can be. Actually, the perfect temperature for sleep, believe it or not, is 16 degrees Celsius. So,
I would believe it. I'm right there.
yeah, 16 degrees Celsius. Cracking open a window even in the winter is very helpful. Clean room so that your brain isn't kind of cluttered thinking about, oh, there's laundry and there's things. It's wild what that does for our sleep, just kind of having a good environment. Dark room, obviously. I always say, think about what was happening 100 years ago.
Okay.
The sun goes down, the lights get dimmer, it gets cooler in the evening. Light would be low, so fire. We'd all be sitting around the fire, telling stories to kind of get our mind off of the day, connecting with our community, and then quietly going to sleep. It looks nothing like that anymore.
Oh, I know. And that sounded beautiful. I want that.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, in our house, we've started to put lamps low. So we turn not everyone can and have special light bulbs that reduce the blue light, but you can just put lower warm lamps low, and all of the ceiling lamps go off as the sun goes down. Also, all of my computers and phones and everything, they all have something called F-Lux. So it takes the blue light and matches what's happening outside. Anywhere you are in the world, it will match the same level of light so that your brain starts to get the message that it's time to go to sleep.
Say that again. Say that again. I've never heard that. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's called F.Lux, L-U-X.
Lux. Okay.
It's a free app, and they also have it. Sorry, my dogs.
That's okay. We love dogs.
F-Lux as well. So yeah, I sort of try and recreate that atmosphere of 100 years ago. Only around community and people that make you feel safe in the evening too.
I love that. I love that. And that's very intentional of just like how we set the stage in the morning when we get up to, begin our day, it's being very intentional at night and not like drifting into routines of, overstimulation, whether it be TV or computer or the World Series. Okay, we get a break this week. This is a big deal. We haven't been there in a while. So,
Right.
but I love what you're sharing there about setting the stage so that it does put you in that headspace of calm relaxation, and also, almost mimicking the season, right? Like I know for myself, like with it getting darker earlier, like I certainly want to get snuggly earlier, right? When the sun's full out at 10 o'clock or 9:30 at night, I'm still ready to be walking or, being down by the beach or just, being outside. But I do feel how the season shifts that mood and, just how we start to unwind and relax. It's almost like, well, it is Mother Nature telling us, okay, it's time for hibernation. It's time for restorative energy.
And that fights a little bit against our culture of productivity in all seasons.
Mm-hmm.
In all seasons of our life. So we do have to make a bit of an effort in recreating that and allowing for that, and recognizing that sleep and rest is productive too.
Yeah, it is. It is a necessity. It's not, it's a necessity for sure.
Yeah.
I want to go back to hormones for a second because I think, it's very important. Like if you're questioning that, what would be some of the early warning signs that hormones might be impacting you? And, it can happen at any age, right? And I'm saying that because most of us at that perimenopausal or menopausal, which I'm actually on the other side of menopause, but we know that to be true, but even in younger ages, hormones have an impact. So how would you know it's hormones?
Yeah, so I tried to eliminate other things that, again, the low hanging fruit piece. So we look at sleep hygiene, what other stressors are happening in your life right now. And then, I tend to test. I'll test hormones. I'll test if there's an iron deficiency, if there's a vitamin D deficiency, if there's something else going on that might be contributing. But we typically will see with a hormone imbalance, it's that 3 a.m. waking.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily trouble falling asleep, but it's staying asleep
Mm-hmm.
that causes a problem. And the heat is a big part of the puzzle. But because, like you said, it's not only, my women who are 49, this can be happening to. There are plenty of hormonal conditions that happen. PCOS can throw off hormones, pregnancy, postpartum, all of these hormone imbalances can cause issues with sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't wait too long before I start to investigate the hormone piece.
Okay, good. And if someone in our audience is listening and saying, well, I'm in my 30s and I'm already starting to feel that, like, how would they approach their healthcare professional about that?
Yeah, that is something I bump up against all the time.
Mm.
So I hear a lot of women frustrated because they've gone to speak to their healthcare practitioner and feel dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
And I also understand why. It is a very busy and overburdened system, so I completely understand. Sometimes seeing a naturopathic doctor instead gives them a little bit more space and time to explore it a bit deeper. But seeing their regular general practitioner, maybe it's really explaining and advocating for yourself that this impacts your life in a very negative way. And really dig into, how it's impacting your life, how it's impacting your well-being, your concerns, really not holding back on that. And that's what I've learned even with my own doctor. I have a wonderful doctor. Sometimes I'll go in and kind of say, yeah, there's this thing, but it's no big deal. And that's kind of all they're hearing. And I've had to learn to say, no, listen,
This
is
is a big
really
deal.
a big deal. This
Yeah.
is a big deal. And I find that tends to work. And if it doesn't work, there's a lot of practitioners who can advocate for you, that you can surround yourself with. And that's very much what I love to do.
Nice, nice. Well, I think you hit on the main thing there with regards to being your own advocate, right? Like, and doing your research, right? Like, because we have so much access now to understanding and educating ourselves even before we get there, right? And that is important. And you're right, our healthcare systems are definitely overburdened, but you're worth it. Right. And so it's really making sure that, you're pushing for yourself to get what you need.
Yeah. I always say my patients are experts in themselves. They know, they've been in their body their entire life. They know what's off. They know when there's something wrong. I'm an expert in what I do. Let's collaborate.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's the best situation right there, because you do know your body and you know if something is off. Right. And so I remember when I was diagnosed with my autoimmune issue, my specialist kept saying, "Oh, yeah, that's not part of it." And I'm like, "I'm pretty sure that it is." And she's like, "No, no, no, it's really not." And then years later, because I was with her for a really long time, she has retired. She was amazing. Love, love, love this woman. She saved my life. But after many years, she was like, "Oh, yeah, we have more patients coming forward with that as well. We just didn't know that from the early stages." Right. And so I think, when your doctor is listening, like they're taking notice. And then, because once you hear it, you can't unhear it.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's who else is saying this and how is it impacting them? So I love the advocacy piece. I think that's super important. What about women balancing careers, families, like the hormonal shifts, the caregiving? You brought that up earlier. That's very near and dear to me because I'm in that sandwich generation and you are as well. You've got, kids, you've got parents you're dealing with. So what is that long-term cost of just continuing the push, the grind, and, pretending like that chronic fatigue is really not there, because that's what we do.
Yeah. Long-term cost is your wellness, your health, your longevity, showing up for your friends and family and showing up for work and being able to help and support others, and your joy. That is what I'm seeing is people are willing to give up their own well-being and their own joy just to be productive for others. So, I mean, I think it's the biggest cost to keep pushing through, push and push and push.
Yeah. And that's a dangerous game
Yeah.
because it's kind of like when we were talking about with sleep deprivation, you can't get that back. And it's the same thing with regards to the longevity. And when you get so depleted, right? And we all go through those moments. So I think it's also about recognizing when you're in the moment and not staying in that for long periods of time, right?
Totally. And it's interesting because when I see women in this generation and others, I kind of hear two things when it comes to sleep if they're having trouble sleeping. Yesterday, for example, I had this wonderful woman who was dealing with burnout. And when we were talking about sleep and in the context of sleep, she kept calling herself lazy. Lazy. And sleep is a luxury. And I'm so lazy. Just really bullying and name calling. So I hear that piece of it. And the other side I hear is often women will say, "Why can't I just sleep? Why can't I just do these things?" And there's just this missing piece of self-compassion in both statements. So lazy, I had to really drive home that sleeping is anything but lazy. Your mind is working, your brain is working so hard, your body is working so hard. And for you to show up and be the best version of yourself and show up for everybody, you need rest. And then the other piece is being hard on yourself for not being able to sleep is like yelling at your kids for not being better kids. There's no compassion. There needs to be a piece where, like, of course you're not sleeping well. Of course your hormones are shifting. We're in a world where there's light coming at us all day long. There's so much pressure coming at us. Of course you're not. So maybe just give yourself a little compassion and then come up with a strategy.
Love that. Love that. We are so hard on ourselves.
I know.
Right? It's like
Yeah.
we get up every morning, we put that cape on because we got to be super women, and not just women, men do it too. You got to be superhuman. Let's say it that way.
For sure.
And that grace is so important, what you're describing, because what you feed yourself is then how you actually become, right? Like like, I used to say to myself, oh, Vicki, why'd you do that? You're so stupid. And then I was like, God, I would never say that to my best friend. Why would I say that to myself?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that you're talking about, like having that self-compassion, that grace, and also your body's talking to you. If you need that little extra sleep, if you slept till 9 o'clock, like, congratulate yourself, celebrate. Hey, you know what? Clearly my body's talking to me and I need this. And I think we do miss that often, where we're so critical and judgmental about our state, instead of just, stepping back for a second and reflecting on why it might be happening.
Yeah, exactly. And the irony of it is, typically when we have some compassion around why we're not sleeping or why we're craving more rest and more sleep, we tend to get better.
I
Right?
know my head's clearer.
Yeah.
Definitely more creative, right? When you
Yeah.
take that break.
You take the break.
So, yeah. So, what are maybe one or two things that you could share with the audience about high impact changes that a woman can make today? Like something they can do, or a man, to improve their sleep?
Yeah. So, just from a lifestyle perspective, like I said, sort of create the environment of 100 years ago. And then I usually tell people a half an hour before bed, write down everything you could possibly worry about, everything that might come up for you in the middle of the night. I leave that journal beside my bed, and I suggest other people do as well. And if they wake up and their mind starts thinking, oh, and I forgot this, and and I'm going to do this, just jot it down, and then the book is holding it for you. My mom used to say, imagine or hang it on a tree. So imagine a big tree holding all of these worries for you. Hang it on a tree.
I love that.
And if these sort of lifestyle shifts aren't working, and if the, going back to 100 years ago isn't working, the first, thing that I typically do once we've ruled out any other sleep issues or sleep apnea, restless legs, or low iron or anything else, I typically start with magnesium, because that's also a nice and easy supplement that increases GABA, helps you sleep. I always say it helps you have a nice sleep, less headaches, have a nice poop in the morning. It's all good.
All good stuff.
All good stuff. If you're waking up, there's things like L-theanine, and you can take chewable pharma GABA, and that just sort of quiets your mind back into sleep. And then, as we move up the sort of pyramid of the next steps that I would take, if there is an issue with hormones and you are potentially in perimenopause, then considering things like hormone replacement, menopause hormone replacement therapy can be life-changing. I've seen it be life-changing for people, for impacting sleep, well-being, and then all the other wellness side effects: better cognition, less brain fog, less less cardiovascular risk, improved bone density, and on and on and on. But for sleep, it can be a game changer.
Amazing. Amazing. I love that. So I know we have to wrap up. So what's one myth about women and sleep that you'd like to debunk once and for all?
So a good myth about women and sleep is that there is a thought that we need the same amount as men, and we don't. We actually need more. We're natural caregivers. We are natural multitaskers. We actually need, on average, 20 to 30 minutes more every single night. And there is some research that suggests more like 9 hours for women.
Okay.
Almost an hour more than men. We need this in order, like I said, to prioritize important things versus unimportant things. And if we don't get that quality sleep, we wake up and think everything is an emergency, and it's impossible to prioritize. So really understanding for women that sleep is a non-negotiable. It is not lazy. It is not, a luxury. It is a non-negotiable.
Love that. Okay. I just got permission to sleep.
Yeah, you got permission.
This is great.
Yeah, prescription. There you go.
Yeah, that's my prescription. Actually, it's funny you say that, because I remember when my specialist said to me, sunshine was my prescription for my autoimmune issue. And she goes, I'm going to write your prescription to go to the Caribbean. I was like, oh, that's fantastic. I love it. So now I have my sleep prescription.
I need to see her as a doctor.
I know. She retired last year in December. I know. Big miss. She's amazing. So, Dr. Jen, this has been fantastic. Like some really great tips and really incredible information to help people understand why you might be having these disruptions in your sleep. So thank you for that. How can people find you? If they have questions, they've listened to the podcast and they're like, oh, I wish Vicki would have asked this. How can they reach you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on my Instagram. So that's Jen Parsons, N as in Nancy D. Also my website, www.drjenparsonsnd.com. I'm happy to answer any questions. You can shoot me an email through my website. Yeah, I love to chat. I could talk about women's health all day long.
Yay. Well, we need more of that. That's for sure. We have been neglected through the years.
Yes, that is for sure.
So we need more talk about women's health and just women amongst women talking about our health, right? Because we do experience things differently than men. And, we want to make sure that, first of all, we're not crazy. We know that it's actually happening. But the more we talk about it, the more we educate ourselves, the more we can advocate for ourselves. So love that and love how you shared that earlier. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing, your methods to medicine with regards to how to get better sleep quality and better sleep overall.
Thank you so much for having me, Vicki. This has been a real pleasure.
Our pleasure. Thank you. And audience, thank you for being here. We know you have a choice as to what you listen to. So thank you for chiming in, for being here today. If you have somebody in your life that is really struggling with sleep, please share this episode with them. Let us know what you thought. And if you have questions, you know how to reach Dr. Jen now. You can reach them out to me if that's easier, and I'll get them to her and we'll get your questions answered. But, really think about how do you start to improve your sleep patterns, your sleep quality. And if you're interested in learning more about your leadership, visit us at www.willempowered, that's 1L, and take our free leadership quiz. It'll give you some great insight as to how you're showing up as a leader. Thank you, everyone. Have an amazing week, and we'll see you on the next Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for WIL Talk, sponsored by Women in Leadership Empowered. To learn more about our programs, please visit www.willempowered.com. We look forward to seeing you in our community.